What's up, folks, and welcome back for another review of Atlanta episode 8. New Jazz. Terrell and I are here to break this episode down. Let's get right into it. Terrell, New Jazz. What do you think the whole meaning behind the title, and or should I say the message behind this episode?
Oh man, it's definitely the message of being secure and dealing with like your image and dealing with like the fears and the consequences that come with people viewing you a certain way. And it's a lot of like those messages and then and how you want to be seen, especially with Al's character being famous and everything like that. Him kind of some hangups that he has, like dealing with going into this new his paperboy persona. And like I said, we get a lot of dealing with the anxieties of being canceled, dealing with family, feeling like you being used, and not wanting to be seen, like I said, a certain way to the public. But like I said, it's a lot of stuff to break down the messages. And like I said, once the journey takes off, you definitely gotta pick up on a lot of the stuff that's happening. It's very subtle and not subtle at the same time.
Yeah, I'll take the other part of that question in the title, New Jazz. So, like, I've heard this term before, and I heard it in a very vague fashion. I've only known New Jazz to be, and not even how it's spelled in this way, where it's the title spelled Newjazz. I've seen it in Nujazz, and maybe it's the same, maybe it has something to correlate with the title or not. I'm not sure, but I just know it's simply like a subgenre of jazz, and it's just basically how jazz is just modernizing over time. And I can't quite equate what it's trying to say in terms of the message of this episode, but to me, I'm thinking potentially, I think it's just potentially talking about like the evolution of should we say Al and Paperboy, and who he's become over his journey, as we see him sort of like from the struggle to kind of solidifying who he is to now understanding on the other end. Now that you have success, like now are you aware of the business side of things, where your money's at and who owns your masters and stuff like that. So I guess it's like a more of a like a almost three-step program in terms of just like the beginning, the success, and not sort of say the end, but now that you have achieved success, your work isn't done. Right. You still got to keep things in order. So, I'm not sure if that's kind of what it's kind of trying to tie to it, which would be very, very unique in the way it was doing so. But that's just my take. But hey, folks, anybody listening to us, jump in the comments, let us know what you think the title New Jazz and how it's implied, and what's the symbolic nature of this title and his new name, aka New Jazz, being in it within this episode. So anyway, a lot to unpack with this episode. We're back with the main squad. I heard a lot of people talk about they didn't like last week's episode. Then I heard a lot of people say they didn't. I'm not addressing none of that. I'm just here to say that we're going to be covering this season until we're done to episode 10. So love it or hate it, we're here, and we're going to do what we're going to do. Starting off this episode, Darius and Al just chilling around Amsterdam, trying to see what's going on in the city. Now, first thing for me is Darius. Darius is a very, so we say, a very typical character in this episode. If you've ever been out with anybody, whether it's your friends or family or just, some third party who was with you, it's always that weird thing when it comes down to discussing finances, when people start to act very estranged, where he's just like, hey, do you want to go half on this? Like, do you want to go half on this? And he's just like, okay, I'll take care of it. Like, there's a part of Al that's kind of looking like, that was hella weird. I don't have a problem. We're tight, you know what I mean? So I'm not going to let it bother me or nothing like that. But it's just like, you made that like way more extra than it had to be. You know what I mean? And then he, on the other end, he's kind of like, after he paid for it, he's like, hey, you want me to go half? And he's like, dude, I already took care of it. But like, how many times have we had the folks that, when it comes down to it and it's time for the bill to be paid and stuff like that, and folks are just real quiet, and then they'd be like, hey, you know, if you would ask me, I would have did something on it. It's like, nah, you got the same amount of responsibility as I do when that check comes out. You know what I mean? Right. And I thought by opening up the episode in that fashion, I don't think it was sort of to kind of give us a depiction as to what was to come in this episode, but I think it was explaining a particular chapter in what Paperboy's success means, where you have your friends who would like depend on you for finances, and you know, they figure like, well, you made it, you got the money, you'll handle it. And it's just like an assumption, but it's just like almost a term of guilt, because even when they went to the tea or coffee shop, whatever it was, you know, when it came down to that, he was just like, he went in there like, all right, I'm gonna go buy this. And he didn't have enough money. And then my man basically took, you know, I'll let fate take care of it, the AKA Jesus take the wheel, and was just kind of like, again, putting this sort of like guilt on Al, like, I'll take it, man. Just don't worry about it. Like, it is what it is. And then, you know, it just was just weird. You know what I mean?
Like you said, I think we all got that one friend, man, that, you know, you gotta word it a specific way, or you gotta say a certain way. Like when you ask somebody out and the first thing they say to you is, hey man, I don't got no money. And you like, hey man, did I ask you if you had money? You know, that type of situation where like, we really don't know what Darius's role is, you know, on this tour. We know what Ern's doing. We know what Paperboy's doing, but what is it that Darius has been doing? Is like he's some type of, you know, what is his cut out of this? How is he financing himself? Because he's not working. You know what I mean? He's along for the tour, and this has been months. So, you know, since the beginning, we've always kind of seen that Al has kind of been Darius's caretaker, so not a caretaker, but kind of like the main whatever to like the whole group. Like, I mean, like you've never really known what
tour manager,
right? What Darius has been doing, but. Like you said, maybe this is like the episode where we do that. Definitely get to see a lot of those moments where Darius is kind of like, you know, at this point it just seems like he's just there. Like he has no, I'm not gonna say no value, but like he's not bringing anything to the team. He's just kind of just mooching off the squad.
Right, and I mean, like I think as fans, we all like Darius, we all like Lakeith. And I think when you kind of look at this situation, you start to wonder, like, is he a liability? You know, we'll talk about it in a second, but like, how does he contribute to one's success? And, or, you know, how are you all building each other? Because that's kind of how a unit works. You kind of want to make sure, like, if I'm winning, then you winning and whatnot. But yes, we do know in these cases that you have folks that says, listen, you are the bread winner in this family, in this crew. You know, so you take care of everything. And it's like, yes, he worked hard, he got where he's at, but like, I don't think that assumes that he's responsible for all of Darius' actions and whatnot. And I think that it's problematic. Like, I think there should be a conversation, and I think that Paperboy kind of being, and like, yes, let's just call it what it is. A coffee is probably $3, whatever you want to be. But like at the end of the day, it still had him feeling some type of way, like, bro, like this is like way extra than it had to be. Like, if you didn't have the money, discuss it. Also, if you don't have the money, why are we even buying extra things and whatnot? Right. And like,
I think it's just more so the just assumption that he's gonna do it. You know what I mean? Like, you show up and you want something, instead of you just being straightforward about it, you just like, you know, you kind of beating around the bush with it, like the whole I'm gonna let fate take the wheel. Come on, man, you know what it is.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean? Like, so definitely see a lot more of that.
And like, I'm not like really immersed into everything that Darius is preaching. So all that dialogue that he was giving to me was just like one ear out the other. And to me, that right there is also another thing. And it could just be me personally, but I'm just thinking like when folks are just saying a whole bunch of nothing around you, so like, what are you up to? It starts to become my thing. When you start, you know, the whole like, how's your family doing? You know, how you been? Blah blah blah. You like,
right?
I don't usually get those type of calls from you. So like, what's the deal? You know what I mean? But anyway, going beyond that point, and folks, definitely chime in your thoughts about this whole beginning of this interaction, because we got a lot more to go. So we need to cover these things.
Rolls?
So like they had
the rolls.
Yeah, I know you're talking about the table, whatever it may be, but nonetheless, they get to a point now where they're gonna take the edibles, and this is where Darius is like, whatever happens to you, I love you very much.
It wasn't just no edibles. it was a space cake. It was the
Yeah.
infused honey that's been bland on the black market. You won't even want to get it on the black market. Like, it ain't no
Yeah.
regular edible. That's
Yeah.
that fentanyl.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Yeah. And he said, "Whatever happened to you, I love you very much." And at that point, I was kind of like, "Wait, what?" Like, me personally, I'm like, "All right, well, the shit's is about to happen. Like, things are about to get real. Things are about to get unhinged." And the biggest thing, to be honest, is that it's still Amsterdam. And I think as Americans, I think that there is a certain level of perception of what Amsterdam is, and whatever it is that you like to dabble into. I think there is like very stereotypical labels attached to it. So to me, I'm thinking those things, plus he just, about to go down this really zooted a journey. Things about to get wild, but it's Atlanta. We all know our P's and Q's. We're looking for the unexpected because that's just what this season has kind of been about. But anyway, they put on some iPad Nanos. They kind of go their own way for a split second. But, he starts listening to Stereo Lab, Torn Amsterdam, and he's getting all out, by the way. It's getting all these different types of interactions. He is seeing couples kissing, he is getting looks, he's getting smiles, he's just getting things that, you may say that a black man from America don't typically get. You're like getting, you're not getting like, let me say, like profiled, or you're not getting there's another word I'm looking for here, but it's almost like a level of acceptance and like almost a level of like, I see you in like a pleasant way.
Right.
I think on the other end, I could be reaching here, but I think like the norm is that like, well, it's a well-dressed black man, like, who are you, or what are you, or something bad, some bad stigma to it. So this was like pleasant to him. Right. And I think he's kind of caught off guard, like, okay, yeah, like, all right, I'm here, you know what I mean? Like, just doing my thing. He's dressed nice, chains flowing, got the fedora. We'll talk about that in a second. But he's very much aware that like he still has to be on his P's and Q's. He's not all for all this dealing with the locals. First thing first here is when he saw Darius again, he's like, bro, like, where are we going? Like, I can't just be out here like that. You know what I mean? Are you about to be my security? This is a liability to me. And Darius is bouncing all off the wall, going whatever he wants to do, taking time, observing the dead, dying rat. But Playboy's like, listen, like, I'm drawing attention, and like, I can't just be out here like just doing whatever, because things can happen. I'm gonna let you talk, but I got to bring up one thing that I picked up that I had to. I thought they were going to go this route. The whole Paperboy interactions with those 3 or 4 local boys that were like trying to harass him was very similar to what happened sort of with ASAP Rocky in Sweden. And whether they were just like, that's how quick danger can hit you. In the moment you could just be chilling, and the person like, hey, it's ASAP. Let me get a picture, and then they start trying to do too much, and then you get into an altercation, and then you get locked up for a long time. Right. And you're American, so they're not going to do you any favors. You got money, you got a statue. Like they're not going to just let you roll out. Brittany Griner is a prime example right now. But like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's like him having the wherewithal of saying like, this isn't a good situation for me, and he hid.
Right.
That I think is showing you the evolution of who he's become. We know Paperboy can be a hothead. We know he can turn up when he wants to, but he didn't duck a wreck. He basically was like, this ain't the move for me, and got out of there. So to this point now, like, what are you kind of thinking about like this beginning journey before he gets into the museum?
Well, first off, I knew, like, I was like, all right, they kept making it a point to say, yo, that boy ain't working, and we all know where that journey leads every time. Because the first thing the guy says, like, yo, your boy is, like, he been crossed over to the afterlife. Like, you sure you ready for this? Like, he's like, oh, this ain't nothing. So I thought right after, like, the kids was like throwing the baby, I'm like, oh, okay, this nigga high. This nigga high, yo, gone. And like, nobody said nothing. It was so ridiculous. I was like, okay, this is the point where we start crossing over into kind of his like subconscious, like, we get to see a little bit of inside of his mind, like what he's thinking and how he feels. You know what I mean? You know, that fear of like that notoriety and being harassed when really you just want to do your thing and be left alone. You know what I mean? And he got fans that just come pick you up, and like you said, like the whole thing of him just wanting to kind of blend in and feel like he's back in the hood. He feels normal. He doesn't stand out. The era for him is gone. You know what I mean? Like because back when he was just regular paper boy, it was just like, yo, he just walk around, you know, he get a little bit of, hey, you know, whatever, but it was nowhere near the level of this that he was prepared for.
Yeah. I think there's like a happy medium between his subconscious and like actual things happening. I think the baby being thrown was absolutely hilarious, but I also think like that might have actually happened. I don't think that was the point. I mean, he did start to say like, and you know, they had the conversation saying, I'm not feeling anything yet. And Darius is definitely like, yeah, well, I'm gone, you know, and
right.
You know,
I really want to believe like, I mean, obviously all these moments are intentional, but I think all these moments do represent something that happened in real life. And I was thinking like, okay, maybe, you know, as we get into scenes that lead in, like maybe that whole baby thing was representation of the baby like rapper, like or some, you know, maybe him being kind of just tossed aside by people after that whole moment in you know, cancel culture. You know what I mean? Like, you know, everybody just kind of, you know, he had his little moment and everybody just kind of just turned on him. So maybe, you know, maybe I could be reading into that.
No, I mean, this is what the show is. The show is picking up on clues and trying to figure out these like symbolic imagery and moments that these episodes have. So like, yeah, and I mean, the baby right now is just got in trouble again. So like, you know, but yeah, before that though, he definitely was driving in a one-way street to cancel culture. Like he's done a bunch of different things and whatnot, but could be true. I mean, like, yeah,
it was a one-way street.
I didn't pick up on that, so that was that's a good thing. But you know, folks, help us out in the comments. You know, everything you pick up on, just, you know, just let us know your thoughts. People have been coming through with some really clutch assessments of things, and I appreciate, you know, everybody who listens to us. So the other thing too is, you know, they walk past the one presumably homeless person on the side and say, hey, don't become that person. You know, he had his goofy hat from Disneyland, Disney World, and he said, that's a tourist. You know, don't be that person. I'll tell you what I got from that before everything went down. It does remind me of what they say about folks who go and to visit or travel to certain places and go for broke because of their actions. I mean, Vegas is like one of the most has one of the highest homeless populations. And you know, if you've been to Vegas before, you know, homeless people are friendly there. They will definitely talk to you. They will tell you their story. And you know, there's folks that like, you know, I came here and I put all my chips in one basket and they went for broke and now this is their life, you know, and you know, they're willing to admit that, they're willing to live with that. And I think that, like, I feel that's kind of what they were kind of trying to say about what rappers do in terms of like either like, you know, getting the fame and then, you know, whatever tangible thing that they're on at the time, houses, cars, jewelry, wherever it may be, and then they end up basically homeless, broke, or an afterthought. And I think that was kind of like maybe the subconscious moment of saying like, by not solidifying your business and your assets and whatnot, this potentially could be you. And that, when I saw that, I was just like, it's telling to focus on that person and say like, don't be that person. You know what I mean? It's him being established and successful. Don't be that person. So anyway, going into and it's funny because he's still trying to figure out how the whole Amsterdam works and whatnot. He backdoors into a museum, a live exhibit of a crying lady. I've seen this before. I don't know what it was, but I've seen this type of exhibit before. So these things are true. Like people do these type of exhibits and whatnot. But he comes in completely uncultured, shall I say, and thought she was in distress. He's like, hey, blink if you need help, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, and quite frankly, he was just out of place and whatnot. But that's the moment where he meets what is her name?
Lorraine.
Lorraine comes in and she's profiling him. She says she hates rappers. She hates how they say pussy and all this other stuff. Rappers don't know anything about themselves. And that statement right there, I definitely was. I want to know the commentary behind that, because that seemed very deep. That seems like a podcast episode for somebody to talk about how rappers don't know themselves. And listen, to me, I just think that rappers do follow trends. So when you're just following all the time, do you actually know who you are?
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
Man, Lorraine is such a loaded thing for me, and I'm gonna tell you what I think about Lorraine, and people might say I'm wrong. Let me know. I think first off, I think Lorraine was trans. I think that Lorraine represents this stigma in the rap community with trans women and just the gay culture in general, and how rappers kind of treat them or kind of stand off from them because they don't want to be seen a certain way. And a lot of like what Al is saying, like, yo, don't touch me, I don't want to be seen near you. You hear a lot of that in the conversation. And you think about the friends that she's hanging around, they were, LGBTQ people, based on, where they were and stuff like that. And that's what I was getting picked up. And again, jumping back to that whole baby situation with him and his comment that was made about the community. So, like I said, I think she winds up representing a whole lot of other stuff, and trying to expose the truth for him and show him, like, look, it's other stuff to this that you're not focused on. But mainly, she comes in and says, like, look, yo, you got your friends letting you dress like this. They not real. You don't know how your money being handled, like you said. You don't know what's really going on out here. You just out here performing. So it's a lot with her. Like I said, as we go through his journey.
Yeah. Excellent take. And because you bring that up, I think to also do that statement justice, then Lorraine, them, because trans just and don't know if that's where you're going. So just to be try to be as correct as we can about that. But that's an amazing take, sir. That right there is amazing. I don't have anything to add to that, but I think that my only thing to add about Lorraine is that Lorraine represents a subconscious, a physical embodiment of it. Right. It's the things that we'll just say rappers fear. Is being real to yourself and understanding how ignorant you are to the business that you are so obsessed to want to be in. Right. Asking legitimate questions about your business. Do you know how your money's being handled? Do you know your circle? You know what I mean? Do you have nothing but yes men around you? Or do you have somebody that's willing to stand up and tell you what the truth is? You on this clothing line because you see everybody else doing it. But actually, is that how you really want to be viewed? Are you comfortable with that? You talking about wanting to blend in, yet you do everything to stand out. It's like all these sorts of different things that, like, Lorraine comes in and brings a massive amount of perspective into Al's life, which was really dope, really dope. And I think that Lorraine comes in teaching Al all these different things, and while Lorraine's other friends were kind of joking about Lorraine's whole establishment with rappers and whatnot, and saying, like, they call Lorraine the apartment 106 in Park. Which folks don't know what 106 in Park is, because we might have some young audience there, but that was like the premier place for new rappers to debut, drop music, and it was the shit, from the Rain and Free days. I even get Bow Wow a little love with Sierra. Like, it's a staple in the rap community, in the Black community for music. It was a premier place. And I have no clue what Free and what's his name has been up to. I have no clue. It's been a while. I seen him. I think I seen him pop up. Matter of fact, they were on the New Year's New Year's ball ceremony thing. So AJ and Free and whatnot. So
with the fake wig on.
What?
You know, AJ was wearing like the fake wig joint with the dreads.
I didn't know that. I thought it was real, but I don't know. But hey,
but no, I think when they said that, made that comment about that, what I had took out of that was I felt like maybe not her specifically, but maybe where they are, like rappers or like celebrities feel like they could just come down and just do whatever, you know what I mean? Like they come down and get bodies, you know, because the prostitution down there is free, so you can just kind of do whatever they want. But I guess I don't think that was specific to her. I just think it was them just talking about, you know, how they just coming down there and they be sleeping around and they be doing whatever when they come down, you know, they get high, they have sex, whatever. So
yeah. And like I said, Lorraine made it very clear that, you know, Al, I'm saying the things that you need to hear, not the things you want to hear.
Right.
And that, to me, speaks as a subconscious. Also, when Lorraine is kind of disappearing at times and whatnot, I think it's like the ability to decipher, like, you know, what's happening in your life. And I think that, you know,
she's his Jiminy Cricket in this episode.
Yeah, that's basically it. That's basically it. Anyway, Al's walking around seeing all these folks with goofy hats. They're tourists, and I'm trying to figure out, like, as he see more with them with maps and whatnot, I think that he realizes, like, I don't actually know what he possibly thinks at these moments, but, you know, he then removed his fedora to wear this new hat, then now getting the title of New Jazz as they go into the club. Yeah, as you mentioned, he's definitely going down the red light district. So all these sorts of different things are happening. To me, also signifies that at this point he's truly high, and whatnot. Other interesting thing, I don't know if anybody's ever heard this, and it's probably because in America you can't do this, but he ordered a Hennessy White neat. And that is called the Chris Evans. I've never heard that. But you can't order Hennessy White at a bar here, so therefore you possibly will never know that. But if that's a thing, I need to know, folks. Is that truly what they call Hennessy White neat?
Yeah, and you definitely can only get Hennessy White overseas or on a cruise or something like that once you cross lines.
Right, but like Chris Evans, cat, that guy. That's okay. We'll go with that. Anyway, he's in his club. The club is called Cancel Club.
Yeah.
AKA AKA where everybody hangs out that is soon to be part of. Well, no, it is what it is. You're essentially in cancel culture. They should have way more cameos in there. Way more cameos.
Yeah, anybody want that smoke? That's like being on the dark side of the ring. Nobody want.
Listen, at least people that look like the other people or something. And there's probably folks we missed that somebody's gonna be like, "Yo, did you see et cetera, et cetera?" But hey, listen, we got Liam Neeson in here who has I got a particular set of skills. I can't believe he said that. Yeah. Al said, "You are the last nigga I expect to see here," and he was like, he hit the Booker T. He's like, oh, I can't believe I said that. Go ahead.
That is just like to be really self-aware of something and to tackle it this head on. And you know what I mean? It's like, hey, it is what it is now. You know what I mean? Obviously, you know, I didn't mean it. I apologize. But, you know, your people want me here, so that's where I'm at. So, you know, I thought that was really interesting. Of all people I expected to see in Atlanta, never in my days would I have thought Liam Neeson.
Yeah, listen, before he even mentioned it, I had already knew that him being in there, I was like, oh, this is about to address that interview from 2019 about his friend that had got raped and how he was basically like, listen, if you black, I'm coming for your ass. And, you know, he was taking the movie stuff too real. But yeah, he's never swayed away from it. He didn't get canceled. He definitely got put on the hot seat, but he addressed it head on. I think that this only solidifies that he wasn't doing it because a PR person told him to do it or like, hey, save your career. He was, and this is another example of like, he doesn't care about his career. It's a sense of right and wrong. And he says, I'm taking this head on. So like, let it be clear. He deserves the respect. And when you talk about rehabilitation and whatnot, this is it. Like you owned it, you accepted it, and you move on. And that's it. You don't dwell in it, and you handled it how you're supposed to do it. The right people, Black community were owed an apology. It was given, and I'm not saying this is poking at it, but this is absolutely embracing that. Like I said that I own that, and that's a part of my legacy. But I also learned from it, and I moved on. But in the funnier tidbits of this, shall I say, Al, you know, he basically spoke for in terms of the Black community. He's like, okay, you know what? I'm glad that you did this. I'm glad you apply. You'll apologize, and I still fuck with Taken. Also, he just dropped the movie.
How people would thought like, I like those movies, man. Like
yeah. He just dropped a movie, or a movie's coming out soon, Memory, which is really good. Check that out. No, it's in theaters. No, hell no, it's in theaters, man. Him and Guy Pearce is in it. It's like, check that out. Check that out. He's definitely playing him, so he's doing what he does.
Probably.
But yeah, you can, like I said, that interview with Liam was back in 2019 again, where he talked about a friend being raped, and he was very much about to want to go on a vengeance spree with Black folks because of that's who was the accused of it.
Yeah, because he got caught up in a couple different interviews, like he was like doubling down, but as they really hit hard here, it was such an emotional response to the situation. And you know what I mean? Like, if it was anybody, they probably be on the same stuff. Like, hey, but the way he went about it, he was wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, come on, you targeting one specific demographic, like, it's not how you want to do that.
Right. So, but I mean, like you say, it's like I'm glad to know you don't hate Black people. He said, well, they tried to ruin my career. They didn't succeed. And
that was funny as shit. Y'all didn't get me.
Yeah. now we're mortal enemies. And he also said something in the joke, and he also said something that had some truth to it too. He said
we're mortal enemies in the eyes of the whatever. Yeah. But he's like, I don't really care.
Yeah.
Like,
and he said the worst and best part about being white is that you don't have to learn from anything if you don't want to. Well, I just throw out a name, Ellen DeGeneres. But hey, shit like that happens. Folks get put on the hook for something. And it's just like, I'm sorry, you didn't learn anything. You just wanted to protect your show. And so there's that. And imagine how biased cancel culture could be at times. You know what I mean? Anywho. It's been a night for this man. He's been out all night. It's back daytime, and we see things come full circle. We see after his last conversation with Lorraine, who completely just have him succumb to his high, the muscles and everything is just giving out. Lorraine gave the last tidbits that he needed to hear. And Al ends up becoming exactly the person he walked around.
Well, hold up. There was a scene before they walk outside where they was about to call him up on stage to perform in the cancel club. Now, if you really I was really thinking about that, like that, because like, man, when you're in this cancel culture, they really want you to come out and put on a show and go on this apology tour and whatever and stuff like that. And I really was thinking about that, like, you really see like actors or celebrities really put on a face, you know what I mean? Like when they got to be out in the eyes of the public to defend themselves. So I wonder if that was the conversation. She was like, yeah, it just saves you from having to deal with that. You know what I mean? And then he was like, nah, you didn't save me from that. They get into, back and forth with himself. But I really thought about that. Like, every time we go through one of these cancel things, it seems to be like the same process. We get an apology. Cancel culture does not accept said apology, and then we go on. It's like, okay, how these teachable moments, like how we teach these people if we won't even accept these apologies. Like, what is the end result to this whole cancel thing? Like, okay, we just want to see people out of a job, whatever. But they didn't put on their performance. They didn't went on stage and apologize. But we don't accept it, and it's over anyway. So
as a person that's big on empathy and rehabilitation, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, Kevin Hart is a name that comes to mind here too, where like they tried to cancel him numerous times and he apologized numerous times, and every single time he gets brought up for something new, it's like, hey, we need you to apologize again. When he was supposed to host one of those shows, they was like, hey, he's gonna be the host, but also you need to apologize for the thing you already apologized for back then. And Kevin Hart was like, I'm not apologizing anymore. I've already done it. Like, what more do you want me to do? And whether you agree with him or not, the biggest issue here is, what is the end game here? Where do these folks that do get in trouble, that are completely cultural or whatever insensitive. And once it's brought to their attention, where would you like them to see? A lot of folks want them to be permanent residents inside Cancel Club, but beyond that, it's like we need these folks to be reacclimated back into society. But what are you doing to do so? That's the thing. And you think about how this episode works. It's like, okay, he avoided cancel culture, but then he basically became broke, homeless, without any guidance, alone. And is that what y'all want? Hey, you messed up. You said something inappropriate 20 years ago. We found it. We dug up your Twitter. You need to apologize. I would do what I got to do so. But what is after that? Am I still in trouble? Am I still guilty of the crime? Again, another example of folks that, whether you like it, agree or disagree, Michael Vick, he was involved in a heinous crime of dogfighting. He done did his time. He got back, and then he played a little bit, and then he got jobs within the sport. And folks still, and this is not even a stretch, if you look up the superlatives of like most hated NFL players, for whatever reason, Michael Vick still makes the list.
Man, really?
Brady, him, and like somebody else randomly, it's just always on these lists. And it's like, well, what more does a person have to do to prove that I learned my lesson?
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's where it is, because I think ultimately people aren't happy until like you end up like out on the street. So that's just kind of my thing from that. And then, to kind of wrap this up, Earn basically said, hey, I found you passed out on the street. You've been asleep for about 10 hours. You had thrown up, whether or however that might have happened and whatnot. And that's that. Two things to make of that. Earn found him, not Darius. So it's just sort of like, well, what was Darius' whole role here? Just a complete liability? He just said, don't be that guy, but what did you do to prevent him from being that guy? You were fully aware that could happen, but did you do anything to do so? I think you got to think about the company that you're around. You let your man be out on the city by himself the entire day, and he done had a whirlwind of things happen. I mean, luckily he didn't get robbed, but like, what a night, you know what I mean? And Darius is out here doing this thing. It's crazy. It's like, hey, you just held him down, bought him lunch, bought him all this extra shit, or just coffee or whatnot, and then you got what you want, so you were gone. That's my take.
Right. We see the story come full circle with us, the audience, realizing that is him on the ground close to the shop. You know what I mean? He is the guy that they didn't want to become, obviously, at the beginning of the episode. But we see like from early on in the show too, where Al is like, there's situations where like Darius is kind of like, oh, he's like, where's Al? And Darius is like, oh, a dude in jail. Like, what? He's locked up in like the second episode when they finally come back to the crew, and he gets locked up, whatever. Okay, like, where was Darius? How was he helping to avoid, like you said, what is his role here? But I mean, like, just seeing him kind of just deal with a lot of these anxieties that he has in his head about, this cookie has opened up about what he was thinking. And, the first thing we see is him talking to Aaron, like you said, and he gets some of that off his chest by saying, hey, man, what's going on with my finances? What's going on with my masters? Like, what's up with that? And getting some alleviation to, getting the answer from Aaron. Like, yeah, no, you own that. That's yours. Like, oh, okay. So, showing that trust and that bond between him and Aaron. You know what I mean? Because I feel like when they initially started this off, this was real shaky, because Aaron was kind of like, Aaron was out for himself at one point, like, you know what I mean, to just get money and take care of his family. He wasn't worried about Al Paperboy at first, you know what I mean? This was just a job. This was the job to him. He wasn't taking it as serious, but now he is looking out for his cousin, was, his best interest in this particular instance.
Despite all his personal things that he's going on, he's still focused on making sure that Al is good. I think that's worth noting itself.
Yeah, like multiple occasions through this season have we seen him just like make it a priority. Now, the kind of background conversation was like this whole insurance thing that they had going on, like this like liability. He mentions it again, like, yeah, I'm glad I wasn't there because ABC. Like, so I really wasn't picking up on that. Maybe I missed it. Maybe the chatter picked that up for us.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say is that, like I said, with Al having all his own personal things going on with Van and whatnot, he's still making sure that paperwork is good. And I think that, like, when you talk about the folks in your circle, you got to give him credit. And plus, my man changed my man after he threw up over himself. That's the real one right there. But yeah, whatever insurance claims scandal or scheme that they got going on here, which has something to do with them going to get a massage, which tells me that it has something to do with their anatomy, whether it's an injury, something with a chiropractor of some sort or whatnot, and them basically saying, like, I've been trying to, like, work on this and whatnot, like receipts to say, like, you've been trying to work on whatever the issue may be. It's a Darius thing,
right?
And do folks hang around folks that even when you succeed still be trying to do this street knucklehead stuff? Yup. So I don't know, man. It ain't a good look for Darius right now for the things that's happening, but we'll see what happens going forward. Because we got a lot more questions than answers on that. So
right.
But yep, that'll do it. We're out of here. This is episode 8 of Atlanta New Jazz. Let us know the things we missed out on, things, your takes, your predictions, your assessment, your analogies, all those things down in the comment below. We'll be sure to check those out, and we'll see you back episode 9 and 10. 2 more before this season's done. We'll be back for it all. Thank you for tuning in, and as Terrell would say, bye.